When you look at this photo, you will probably smile. It is proud parents with their newborn baby. But just 4 years later, Jonathan here died after being infected with hepatitis C and HIV through a blood treatment for haemophilia. That was 1993, and 30 years on, his son Jason, who's the baby in this photo, is campaigning for justice. He's uncovered documents which seem to show that his dad, and many others like him, were used in medical trials for a product called Factor VIII without their knowledge. Well, Jason joins me now. We've talked a lot about the infected blood scandal before, haven't we, Jason? I wonder if you could start, though, just by reminding our viewers, what is Factor VIII and what was wrong with it?
Well, this all begins in the 1970s, where the treatment for haemophilia, which is a genetic blood clotting disorder, changed from something similar to a blood transfusion to this new Factor VIII product, which was made by mixing together tens of thousands of blood plasma donations and then freeze drying that down into a white powder, which could then be dissolved into water and injected at home by the user. Now, the problem was, because you're mixing together tens of thousands of plasma donations, it was inevitable, using that dangerous process, that you were going to get donations infected with hepatitis C, HIV. Of course, in my father's case, like many haemophiliacs, he was infected with both viruses and died in 1993 as a result.
It's a terrible tragedy. You have been campaigning, trying to uncover information for many years, I know. What is it now that you have found in your father's notes, and what do you think it shows?
Well, what we've been able to do is bring together two sides of the coin effectively. So on the one hand, we've created a more detailed chronology in relation to these secret hepatitis infectivity trials that had been going on. And this is a mixture of documents that have been disclosed through the infected blood inquiry that's been going on since 2017, freedom of information requests. And then on the other side, what we've done is looked at what's actually in patients' medical records. And the reason why that even began in the first place was in the case of my father's medical records. You should be able to see here, there's entries that say Dr. Krask's research work. And so the question I had was, what is Dr. Krask's research work? And that same note is in the medical records of hundreds of families up and down the country. When we then looked at what Dr. Krask's research work was, it was these secret trials to see the different levels of hepatitis infectivity in these known to be dangerous products and how severe the hepatitis would be, completely without people's knowledge or consent. I mean, who would consent to being infected with hepatitis B or hepatitis C? It makes no sense at all. And so by bringing those two sides of the coin together, we've been able to expose these trials, which went on for the best part of a decade on a national level at haemophilia, NHS haemophilia centres up and down the country. And it's truly shocking, I think, the scale of what happened and also the time period over which it happened with fatal consequences.
Jason, you mentioned then the public inquiry, which began 6 years ago after years and years of people pushing for it. The final report is due to be published on May the 20th, isn't it? What are you and other campaigners hoping to get from that?
Well, I think the core finding that we'd really like to see is that these Factor VIII blood products never should have been introduced, licensed for use in the UK until they were heated, which eventually they were. And the reason why that's important is that heat kills viruses like hepatitis and HIV. And in fact, for other blood products, such as albumin, which is used to treat burns and has other uses, that had been heat treated going back to the 1940s, specifically to kill hepatitis. Yet in the 1970s, when this new Factor VIII product is introduced, the manufacturers, the companies, simply didn't want to put the money in to make that happen, to make the product safe. And so instead, the product known to be dangerous is sold and kills thousands of people. So that's the core finding that we'd really like to see.
OK, I should say a government spokesperson has said that the scandal was an appalling tragedy that never should have happened. They said it was working to deliver compensation to the victims. Just very briefly before you go, Jason, do you sense that justice is coming?
Well, I met with the Paymaster General John Glenn last Thursday for just under an hour in Birmingham, and I got the sense that he does want to move this forward, but he's been quite open and frank with a number of meetings he's been holding with people infected and affected that he doesn't yet have sign off from the Chancellor, from the Prime Minister. So we've got a lot of words coming from the government which seem hopeful, but what we really need to see now is action for these things to actually happen and not be, kicked down the road until after an election.
OK, Jason, great to talk to you as ever, and we'll be back in touch, no doubt, when that inquiry report is published very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.